So now that I've got some backup on the way, I've got the line all de-energized, got a permit in effect to work in the area. Pretty much just playing the waiting game now. I can take a few minutes to show you guys what's going on here. So we're actually in a large park right now. There's three-phase power going all through the park. It's all underground lines. The feed for the underground, there's one phase blown, center phase blown. It looks like it could just be fuse fatigue. The actual fuse link, you can see here, it's simply melted off that little tiny piece in the end. A lot of times if you come across a door that's open and the fuse looks like that, it's simply melted off from overload or fuse stress. Fuse fatigue, we call it. It could also be a fault. It could still be a fault. We're going to be doing before opening up these pad mounts for inspection, we're going to open the remaining two phases. There could still be a hazard where the other two phases are still energized. This particular three-phase underground feeds 3 splice pits and 2 three-phase pad mount transformers. Before I go and open the doors to those pad mount, even though they're dead front pad mount transformers and you are allowed to open them while energized, you should not be opening them when there is an unknown situation, a fault in the line, or suspected fault within it. If you look up here, I'll have those doors out when I climb that pole. You see where the high voltage termination is. There's a very small piece of wire going up to the bottom of that cutout. That's where I'm going to be installing my grounds. Now while I'm up there, the top side of that cutout is going to be energized. I've only got maybe 10-12 inches clearance between where my ground's going on and the top of that live cutout. So what I'm going to be doing as a precaution, I'm actually just going to take out the whole line. There's some switches I can reach with my truck down the road. So we're going to open the line so that all this three-phase power will be dead. We're still going to ground it on the cables itself. I've seen sometimes guys would suggest to close in the cutout door and install the ground up on the three-phase, as that would make things a little easier, especially off of hooks. But you don't want to install your grounds through a fuse. If I put some solid doors in there, that would be acceptable, but still better off to go right on the cable itself. So we're at the pad mount here now. One of the first things I did notice as I was loosening up the Chrysler bolts there was a smell, kind of a burning smell coming from it. So that's not good. So I'm gonna open this fella up here. So it's a feed through pad mount transformer. It's a 12470 down to 12208. Our feed comes in off these 3 cables, plugging in there, and it's feeding through to the H1A side, where it continues on to the splice pits and carries on for quite a distance before it gets to the next pad mount. So whether you put the source side on the A or the B side, it doesn't matter. In this case, the B side is the source side. Oftentimes we like to try to keep the source on the A side. However, in this particular case, the source was coming in through the pipes on the right hand side. This is kind of a messy pad mount. The wires are not organized here real well. Looks like a bit of a rat's nest going on here. So you can see here, this elbow is burnt up. Not a huge deal. There's a little bit of slack in the cable here, and it's for this reason exactly why you leave slack in the cables when you're doing underground. We're going to be able to cut that cable off and have just enough slack to put a new termination on. Now here's the part that worries me, where it plugs into the insert. You can see where all the white color is there. That insert actually unscrews and pulls out of the pad mount. So once my backup arrives and we have our permanent effect, I'm going to be attempting to unscrew that. Simply counterclockwise, unscrew it, pull it out. If that's the case, we'll screw a new one in, new elbow, boom, done, we're going home. If that doesn't come out, we're going to have to replace the whole unit, which is going to be not a whole lot of work. Worst part's we're a long way from town in an area of some difficult access. So we'll likely plan for it first in the morning. And it is just pouring, raining out right now. Awesome. Now once my backup arrives and we get into doing the actual splice, I'm not going to be taking the time to take a whole lot of footage of that in this case. We're going to be working as quick as we can to get power restored here before dark. But in the future, if you want to subscribe to my channel, I'll try my best to get a video together on doing a high voltage splice. They're fairly tedious in nature. You got to follow the instructions to a T when you're doing them if you don't want them to fail. We got some help here now. Let's get this show on the road. You end up changing that pad mount transformer, we're going to have to get a crane involved, as there's no way I'm going to be getting my truck, or any truck for that matter, close enough to reach that. Alright guys, so just going to give you a quick update of what's going on here. Quite a change of plans. We got our permit. My help showed up and we started stripping that transformer apart. And there's some pretty extensive damage inside where the elbow plugs into. If you look here, this is the actual elbow, load brake elbow. I had to use a hacksaw to cut that off. Our normal Stinger device wouldn't remove it. We had to clamp onto it with some vice grips. So this is the Stinger. You can see the load brake portion broke right off and we attempted to move it. And this is the insert right here. So this part you see is where the elbow plugs over top. So the elbow is going to plug right over that guy. Most times when the insert gets damaged, you can see there's the copper on the inside. See the track mark all the way around, and once you yank this insert out, you put a new one in, you're good to go. No real damage to the pad mount. In this case, however, you can see how hot it got on this end. So all that heat that showed up on this end here kind of decimated the inside where the insert screws into, and there's no way to fix that. So our next step, the rest of the guys took off heading back towards town. I was just kind of cleaning up our work area here while they're heading off to another call. Something very important, obviously I'm not going to be closing that line back in. We've got the cable that was damaged all chopped up right now. So if we close that line in, it would most likely blow the fuse instantaneously. Could also be extremely dangerous. So we're going to be installing what we call an abnormal conditions tag on the switch. Now in our company, no one is to operate any switches without going through our switching authority, our dispatcher. So on the system at dispatch, they have it tagged in the system saying do not operate this device because there's a bad underground cable. We're going to put this tag in the field as well, right on the switch pole, and remove the doors. That way if someone comes along, which I could never see happening, But as a fail safe, if someone does come along and wonder why that's open, I grab this tag off the pole, which is weatherproof. It's got a vinyl that sticks over top once you mark on it, so the rain doesn't bleed the ink. So we're going to install that on the pole here and head back into town. So the only thing we might have done differently here, if this had been feeding a neighborhood full of houses, I would have got a crane in right now. We could have got that pad mount changed out tonight. There's quite a bit of work, mostly because of the access. It's off-road quite a ways. And we've made arrangements with the customer to get this done. We're going to do it the day after tomorrow. We're going to get the exact same pad mount. It's about an hour's drive away. We've got a pad mount at the office that'll work, but if you use the exact same pad mount where the bushings and everything's all the same height, it makes things a lot easier to fasten back on into place. So we're going to pick that up tomorrow. We're going to have a crew come out here the day after that, get this all fixed up, get the power on, and on to the next one.